Hello Wastebusters and welcome to another July episode of Waste Not Want Not. I have a lovely guest with me today, Tommy Diependaal, and he has a wealth of knowledge all about transitional spiritual lifestyle coaching. And he has a depth and breadth of wisdom that he brings with him. He walks the talk, which is really rather lovely. He's very, very grounded, and I think you'll love him to pieces. I thoroughly enjoyed my conversation with him, as much as I hope you do too. Enjoy. Welcome to the show, everybody. Today I have an awesome guest. He actually invited himself. He reached out to me, which is one of the things that I ask people to do. And thank you for that. Tommy Diependaal is a lifestyle fitness coach. I really love the element of that, but we're going to dive into that. But first, I want to welcome you to the show, Tommy.
Thank you. And I love it that you want to have me.
We'll dive into a big thing that actually caught my attention. But first, I want to ask you, what do you do to minimize environmental waste in life?
Well, there's a nice question. And living in Southeast Asia, we changed to modern life. So in the past, they would wrap the food in banana leaves, right? Natural products. And now, well, I'm not a smoker, but even if people buy a pack of cigarettes, they get a plastic bag with it. And then I go from, why the hell would you give a plastic bag? The guy will put the pack of cigarette in his pocket and most likely he will right away light the cigarette, right? So he don't bring it somewhere in the plastic bag. The culture is, of course, that they are used to drop the package on the ground. And well, if we use less plastic, then we have less waste. And also, if you go to a supermarket, for sure in the West, that they wrap a cucumber or a carrot in plastic foil. And then for me, that's from, why the hell would you wrap a cucumber in plastic foil? For what reason? That people touch it? You wash your cucumber right before you use it.
No, it's actually because I looked into that. The reason is it's all to do with shelf life.
Okay.
Yeah, wow. But yes, we could have a whole podcast all about that. And it's very apt because it's plastic-free July. Here in New Zealand, they do a lot of wrapping. It's not quite in the supermarkets yet, but I would love for them to adopt that rather than having plastic bags at the vegetables, would be to have everything wrapped in natural leaves. Now on to the other side of things. How do you maximize human potential?
Well, that is what I do in my coaching, right? And I call it biological architecture.
Can you expand on that?
Yes. I'm from an age that is in the last part of life, let's say like that. And
we're in the prime of our lives now.
Right? But having that said, then I say from when I was in my 20s and I saw people from my age that at that time would already be retired. And usually a couple of years after the retirement, they pass. Life finish, right? Because the identity was taken away. The purpose of life was taken away. They had nothing to do. And I saw it with my dad when he retired. He had a tough first year to find things to do with all his free time. So in my coaching...
Women?
Women, depending a little bit. Women, when they come out of a corporate life and working and stuff like that, and they were so busy with working, but in general, women, even beside working in a corporate or in a job, they still have the household.
Yeah.
Right? Even if in modern life that the husband take some jobs for the household work on it and they share, still the woman is always there, right? For the kids as long they need the mom. But the woman is always there. So she find more easy things to do, have a schedule beside work.
Important thing for me is what you were saying about for the men, it's their role and of a generation that we are. People used to work for the same company for decades and they identified themselves. And so when you retire, you kind of put on the scrap heap because you're no good for anything anymore. And the men find it harder to adjust. Women tend to go out more so than men and do the voluntary work. And men do as well. I'm not being sexist here, but it's harder for men to adjust to a life of not working full time for somebody else, isn't it?
Yes. So, and then to expand a little bit, because you introduced me as a lifestyle fitness coach, that is more or less what I use when I get my life coaching certification. And because I have a background in fitness, even I work in corporate world in the Netherlands, had my company in IT consulting with government contracts before I moved to Bangkok and I ended up in Laos. So that's why I use that. But now I would say I'm a transformational spiritual lifestyle coach.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
fitness is a part of it. And when you say, man, the identity, so that is part of my coaching, that I say, you hang too much in your identity, right? So if you want to change, try to envision, try to see, try to feel, try to taste your future identity that you want to be or that you want to become. You
Yeah.
cannot change, right? If someone is, that is not my specialty, but if someone is heavily overweight, and I talk 30 kilo or more, they must feel and see themselves in their new identity with these 30 kilo gone. Because if you keep in the same identity that bring you to this weight, how you can change?
I have philosophy on that, and my forte is not in the physical side of things, but I believe a lot of extra weight. I mean, a lot of it is to do with the shit that's in our environment, but also the shitty food. But there's emotional baggage that actually disrupts, dysregulates the biological system, doesn't it?
Yes, but then I say hey, for the last 50 years, I stay more or less in the same weight or fat level, and I was exposed to the same food, right? So it is then an identity that people give to food. And my identity with food, it is my biological energy, right?
Yes,
Food must serve me, it must serve my body to function. And brain health is supported by your gut health.
yes.
People forget how important the gut is. This whole biodome in your gut, the balance between bacteria and virus and human cells. And people forget how much is inside the gut. And they even find now in the research that, well, actually, it was already old. So that's why I like ancestral wisdom in my coaching. That in the past, before antibiotic, they were used fetches from viruses to heal. So there's a liquid made from virus, and then you need a certain virus to attack a certain bacteria or a certain something in your body that make you sick.
It like a homeopathic remedy where you feed it what it
Yeah,
kind of.
something. Yeah, yeah. So now it seems that people get antibiotic resistant, right? And that kill
Mhm.
already 10 million people per year, and it will go up. And
Wow.
so there was a lady that is totally in this field, and then her husband was getting infected somewhere in Africa with traveling and stuff like that. And none of the antibiotic would be working. And then they get to countries where they still use this fetches from viruses until they find the right fetches to feed her husband, and then he cure. So now in
Wow.
modern science, they are already that far that they can say these fetches, these specialized virus can attack cancer. So then you could heal from cancer. And then not only heal, but your immune system will recognize that for life. So you
Wow.
build your defense system. So then even if they, okay, that was done in mice, but even if they would inject the mice again with these cancer cells, without doing anything, the body recognize it and right away attack and eliminate these cancer cells.
Wow.
Yeah. So yeah, for me, I truly believe in the healthy powers of food. And if you lose your identity, if you teach your body to not depend it anymore on certain ingredients in your food, then
Hmm.
you will not long for them anymore. I can give you a good example because, well, I moved from the Netherlands to Southeast Asia, first in Thailand. So I've been there for 5 years. In the first 2 years, I was flying up and down because I still had my consulting company in Netherlands. And I was excited to eat certain food again that was not available or not on the same level. And it didn't give me anymore the same pleasure because it was
Yes.
out of my system, right? My body didn't recognize it anymore in the same way. Maybe a vague memory, but the vague memory was not giving the pleasure when the memory is strong. So certain food that I in the past would sometimes eat, I mean, it were not the best food, so it was not something bad that I lose the desire to eat it. But yeah, it was so funny.
I
Also,
can actually relate to that because mine was Galaxy chocolate from England.
Mhm.
I've actually replaced it with Whittaker's chocolate here in New Zealand, but because it was out of the memory and it wasn't accessible, and the other one was Heinz tomato ketchup. And actually, a lot of the English foods have got a lot more sugar in them.
Yes.
And that makes it addictive.
Yes, the food industry indeed use sugar for preservatives and make you addictive. So your brain would take new pathways in a similar way as a junkie do to desire whatever drugs they use. And there was a good example in England. There was a family doctor who was then in his private life a health nut, but he volunteered for the project to start to eat only factory produced food. So only food that came out of a package. And normally he would not eat it, like chicken nuggets. Well, the only chicken is the word chicken on the label, but there's no chicken in the chicken nugget, right? But anyway, so he despised it the first week. But after 10 days, he started to long for it. He want to have more. So after 30 days, because they did before the brain scan and everything. So after 30 days, they find that his brain did make new pathways. Right? So then you see with the modern food industry that I learned that they say scientists from the tobacco industry moved to the food industry when the tobacco was getting a bad name and the sales was going down. So they must find a new market to target people to eat more and desire more. So for me, I'm happy in Southeast Asia that my cucumber and fruit come from the local market. So in general, only some stuff will come from a convenience store, but usually it is all locally or from the neighboring countries. And the good part is that you then reprogram your brain that you desire real food.
Well, when we're talking about different countries, you just triggered a memory for me that actually nature provides everything we need for the climate that we're living in. And so it's, to me, I go to local markets. I very rarely go to a supermarket. I'm not being self-righteous here, but I will only eat food that is in season. Sometimes I treat myself, but I have a tendency to only eat food that is in season and available in New Zealand, as opposed to something that is out of season that has been imported in.
Well, same, and practical financial reason also, because when it is imported, it gets very expensive. So,
and it doesn't have any flavor either.
No, I remember, so I'm from a mixed heritage. My mom was original from Germany, but I grew up in the Netherlands. And the German family, they were always teasing the Dutch about the tomatoes, right? Because the tomatoes in the winter, they say, well, they look nice, but it is just water. Because Netherlands is famous for glass houses, right? So in the winter, a lot of produce came out of the glass houses. And well, that is all an artificial way of growing, because coming back on a cucumber, if you have just a baby plant that you put in the ground, if it is in nature, it takes about 12 weeks to get a cucumber that you can consume. But in a glass house, it takes about 4.
Wow.
Right? So then I say, do you think that the same cucumber get the same flavor in 4 weeks that what it get in 12 weeks? I don't. And you can see that they just suck up water, and you could taste it. They were watery. There was not much flavor on the cucumbers. Now these days, they all say you must be vegetarian, eat more vegetables. Well, a lot of vegetables, if they are not prepared in the right way, they are very toxic for the body.
Really, right? Highlights the importance of looking at the source of your food, because I can remember, gosh, it was about 30 years ago. My ex was managing a chicken farm, and these chicks would come in a day old, and 6 weeks later, they'd go out fully grown chickens, but they were pumped to buggery with antibiotics and all sorts of things. And so when you look at that, we're consuming that. So they're pumping them through to grow quickly. They've got no flavor. And then I drew a parallel with early puberty. There's a lot of children that I was noticing in primary schools, chubby children. And part of the reason I hadn't researched right into it, I'm convinced, is to do with what is being pumped into our food that we're consuming.
Well, like you mentioned already with the chicken and antibiotics, they pump a lot of antibiotics in the chicken, in the farm-raised fish, in all the cattle that are almost like cattle factories. So there's not all that we have too much antibiotic as a medication, but we get so much antibiotic that we are not even aware of.
Exactly.
And awareness is a big thing. So I'm also a certified 6-phase meditation teacher. And I use that also with my clients. Awareness. So get more aware, be more present in your life, that you take the time to look to a label. I follow a fitness influencer from the States, and he was pointing in one of the big supermarkets there, let's say Costco, right? And he was just picking bacon. And then with a label, he said, look, this one is real pork, and it had about 3 or 4 ingredients: bacon, salt, pepper, and water. And then he say, hey, look, there's 12, 15 ingredients.
Oh.
You know, and I hear you before talking about ketchup, right? So tomato ketchup, most of it in the bottles have almost no tomato. It is all artificial flavors and sugar, of course.
Yes.
So here you have a couple good restaurants, and they make the mayonnaise and the ketchup all by themselves.
Yeah.
So different flavor. And then I was also getting flashback from memory lane, right? Coming from a small town in the Netherlands, and my grandparents were living in a village in Germany, and the meat consumption much higher. But I always had a desire that I want to have the meat, even less potato than I want to have vegetables. So that is actually the natural. So most people are under consuming protein. And
what does that make to the body?
well, the protein get a wrong rep about that it is related to sport and mostly to bodybuilding.
Right.
But then I say, if you complain about brittle nails, or your hair is not nice, or your skin conditions, well, they can all be related to not enough protein. Then another thing is people are under muscle. It doesn't mean that you need to be a gym junkie. No, that is something different. So that's why I talk about identity. My identity in my 20s, when I was a bodybuilder,
Yes.
is quite different now in my 60s.
Yes.
I have different goals. People in the gym come still to me that I look good and in a great shape, that they see me as an example. But for me, I say I'm about 20 kilo less kilo in my prime, and I was 96 kilo in my prime with 8% fat. So you could not say that I was obese. And now I'm 70, 75, 76, and still with about 12, 13% fat. So I would say a healthy man fat percentage is about 15%. And for the woman, 18.
Okay.
Because a woman have natural a little bit about the waistline, and in that area, that's the only reason that for the woman a little bit up. Did you know that now these days they say that for the woman it's okay to have 30%?
Whoa.
Then I say that is already, that is 12% above.
That's
and
almost
12%,
double, isn't it?
yeah, 12% mean that you are at least 10 kilo above your healthy weight.
But then if you're talking about under muscles, so as we age, there is a natural, this is from a layman's point of view, a natural decline in muscle. Do I mean agility? What do I mean? Condition. But part of it is relative. And this is what I really loved about your work, because you're a lifestyle coach. And I was having this conversation with a girlfriend the other day who's 70, and it's like, yes, as we get older, we're not as capable as we were younger. So we've got that memory that we think we want to be able to do what we used to do. So we have to, get used to, there's no way we could do it. But if we want to do something, it's a slow progression. and sustaining it that is important, and recognizing the build up to it. But it's doing something as opposed to just taking on board that there's a natural decline and there's bugger all we can do about it. And that in itself really is the core of the reason that I said, yes, please come on, because you talk about biological sovereignty. And I love that word, sovereignty, because you're suggesting nobody knows our body like we do. We all have different metabolisms. There are tricks out there, but I'm guessing as a coach, everybody's different. Their mindset's different. So their neural pathways are different. So their biological response in the body is different. And it just makes a huge impact, doesn't it?
Yeah. But okay, then I will slap you now then. But I love this word. And I always say it's funny. Oh, I did learn a new English word. Rules.
BRULES?
Yes. Because I want to be nice. Otherwise, I would say bullshit rules.
Yes.
I'll be honest, I will say it came from Vishen Lakhani. He is the CEO founder from Mind Valley, right?
Yeah.
And I love that. And when he explained and how and what, because depending where we grow up, or a little community or little environment, dictate how we think and approach life, right? So, and for me, I always say to my people that want to listen to me, I'm a living example, right? I come from the Netherlands, different culture as where I live now. However, I did grow up in the Netherlands with people that came from our former colonies, so Indonesia, Suriname, South America, and all the other import Dutch, because I say I did love the food much better. My friends in the past, oh, you like the girls? I said, well, the girls give the benefit that they will cook the good food that I like, right? So instead of Dutch food, was traditional Dutch food a little bit boring. Even they have some nice dishes, but in general, Asian food is much more variety. But okay, when you say your metabolism is everybody different, yes and no.
Okay.
Yes, because of different lifestyle.
Yeah, right.
So when elderly people lose the capacity, then I say use it or lose it.
Exactly, yes.
Right? So you didn't lose your muscle because you get older. You did lose it because you fucking don't use it anymore.
Yes, absolutely.
When I was still as a personal trainer, so about more than 20 years ago, I had an older American, had some disability with his back spine and stuff like that, but he was very ambitious, constant wanting more. But then he also say, after a year working with me, and in the beginning, I was scared like hell because I thought, hey, this is not a good marketing if he dropped that. Because regular after a hard set, then he was grabbing his wrist and counting his heartbeat. And I was,
wow,
what is happening, right? I was not used to work with people 20 years older than me at that time. But anyway, in a year time, he improved so much. And that I hear it many times that people say from, in the beginning, I had sometimes my doubts because you are hardcore. You don't take no for an answer. And then I say, no, be like Nike. I mean, the slogan, don't think, just do it. The thinking part I do. I have my experience. I do this shit for 50 years. 50 years ago, I started resistance training. At that time, as a substract to my main sport, I was doing water polo and martial arts. And I did just want to gain some weight, get a little bit stronger. I was a slim, athletic guy. But anyway, for 50 years, I'm consistent lifting weights. Even in my 30s, when I in a certain moment came hardcore party life, full-time job, and a company on the side. So when people say, I don't have time, you have enough time. Now these days, I can say, put your phone down. You're scrolling too much just to waste time, right? And it's the same from you're eating too much because you just want to waste time. You don't know what to do, and then, okay, grab some snacks. You are so programmed. So that's why I love to say you need to deprogram. So one of my clients came because of his wife was a client of mine. So he won also strength training. He saw what I was doing. And then he came. And then with all this entourage on his body. So reps on his wrist, knee, and everywhere some artificial support. And then I say, go back to the locker room and put all this shit in your bag. And then you come back. Oh, but I have that. No, you don't have nothing. Right? Put it away. You put something in your mind that is not true. And okay, then I know his weak points. So then I adjust the schedule and what I was doing with the weak points. And yeah, indeed, a couple months later, he said, "Wow, I'm so much stronger." I said, "Yeah."
It makes me think about, because the word rhythm came up there, which is, hold on to that thought, and also the reliance on gadgets. Because the thing that makes me laugh is people with the Apple Watches and all these gadgets that they're wearing all the time to measure things, when actually the EMF in it is disrupting the system to start with. The system being, for me, is the circadian rhythm, which is linked to the pineal gland. The key thing that struck me was the cortisol from stress floods the pineal gland and shuts it down. So it's no wonder people can't sleep and they're fucked, because everything's completely out of kilter, isn't it?
Yes, I'm happy that you put it like that. You put the ball on the tip and I can just shoot it in the goal. Indeed, the pineal gland get calcified, and that's why we cannot connect with our higher self, for example. I like it in some spiritual circles. They say, what if when you die, you wake up? So we are spiritual, energetic beings that have a biological experience. And our body is the vehicle to have this experience, right? But the antenna is the pineal gland, and it gets calcified. So that's why we miss the power that we actually have. So that's why I always say biological architecture and biological sovereignty, because how you eat is how your body develops. Well,
it's a bit like putting the wrong petrol in a car. It's a bit like putting diesel into a car that's petrol.
Yeah, and then the other thing, stress. So I always talk about recovery and why you would put all this gadget, and they are calibrated on an average.
Yes.
Right? So same if, let's say, if your listeners, they go to the doctor, they do a blood test. Now these days, they have this automatic thing, right? It doesn't go to a lab and analyzed by a human being. No, in this computer, and there you get the average of everything. And if you fit in this average with a little bit plus or less, then they say, oh, these are your conditions from your LDL, your cholesterol. You will get a different outcome if you check your blood in the lab that do it by hand, because then it is not an average calculation. No, then it is show the results. But okay, talking about stress. So you put this smart ring, your smart watch, and now they have also bandits that you can put and test your heartbeat.
Oh my God.
So for me, I always say to people, when they train in the gym, don't be distracted by your phone and everything else. And if you're dancing on the music, what you have in your headset, you are not busy with what you're doing and think to achieve in the gym. Get more mind-body connection, right? So when I buy my smartphone, and I was getting a freebie smartwatch, of course, the smartwatch didn't do much, but one thing it did, and it was tracking my sleep. So I was always curious about how and what, right? Of course, it only tracked how well I sleep, and then also that my deep sleep was, in general, above 30% and a high level. So that even when I put it in AI, oh no, it's wrong, but okay, I have a trained AI. But considering your lifestyle and your background, how long you do it, yeah, it makes sense that you have a much deeper sleep and a much higher percentage.
That the EMF that comes off all our gadgets, that is actually impacting you. So your sleep is going to be disrupted anyway. So it just seems farcical to me to have a gadget on that's going to mess up your system, and then it's going to tell you you're wrong.
Yeah, so that's what I want to come to in my story, but I like to go from like a tree. I start with the base and have all the leaves, and then I come to the top. So yeah, you put unnecessary stress with all these gadgets. While I'm teaching my client to reduce stress. It can headset by breathing techniques, it's set by meditation, and you don't need to sit on a pillow with candles and incense and stuff like that, right? Just have a couple intentional deep breaths. Most people, they are just puffing. They don't hold it in, right?
Yes.
And I liked it from Wim Hof, his nickname, the Iceman. At that time, when I see the first time a video from him, I was not even aware that he was Dutch. But I love how we always say, just breathe, get the fucking air in, right? And then with this strong Dutch English accent. And I love that. And I think, yes, people make things so complicated. And of course, you have a lot of yogis that have different breathing techniques and that will support different parts in your body to function better. And it is all there. But in general, people just don't breathe deep.
It's going back to all the natural resources, as you say. The breathing is paramount. Water's another one that makes a huge impact if we look at the quality of water and the awareness, just taking, like in the morning, I love nothing more than sitting on my front doorstep. It doesn't matter what the weather is, and just taking 10 minutes and looking at the clouds or shutting my eyes and soaking up the rays of the sunshine. We've been taught to fear the sun because of the damage it will do to us, but oh my God, yeah, that's another topic, isn't it? So what's your thoughts on the sun?
Well, first of all, I teach my clients a morning ritual and an evening ritual. So how you start your day will affect how you will sleep.
Take us through those?
Yeah. So in the morning, get out and have a walk.
Yep.
Not run, no intense, just walk 10, 15, 20 minutes and breathe, and don't put the podcast on, just be one with your environment, right? Just enjoy the environment. And like you say, watching the clouds, the sun, and you walk 10, 15 minutes is enough. Then you can do some meditation, do some stretching or whatever. And on that moment, after that, then you have your breakfast and your coffee. So now these days they talk about skip the first hour. Well, I have other things that I do in the first hour. So yeah, I need to skip it. And even in the past, when I didn't know all this biohack bullshit.
Yep.
I mean, it's not wrong, but they emphasize always on one. And you need the whole sum. So yeah, sunlight just shoot in my mind. I remember from when I was in elementary school, and there was a guy, he had asthma. And every year, because he had really serious asthma, every year he did go to Switzerland in the mountains. Clean air. And another thing, sunshine.
Yep.
He came back like he was coming from a beach holiday, right? Brown face and stuff like that. And you see it always with the winter sport people that go to the Alps and stuff like that in Europe. Brown face, brown hand, and you see them sitting with a t-shirt in the sun instead of the big ski jackets. Sun is healing.
Yes.
The one that is bad for us is all the sunscreen with all the chemicals in it. I'm a living example. I'm pretty light skin. So back in the Netherlands, my skin was not used to regular sun because you're too much indoors. So when you had a couple of weeks sunshine, then you go right away in the sun for hours and the whole day. Right? And then you burn your skin. But here, I'm sitting the whole day without a t-shirt and walking in the garden. And of course, I don't do garden work between 11 and 3 o'clock.
Yes.
Well, I don't say never, but in general, I try to avoid it. And I never use any sunscreen, and I never have any serious burn. Sometimes I can see after working in the garden that my skin is a little bit colored, that you see the sun in your skin. And I said it in the past also with my friends from Suriname and Indonesia. So the former slave descendants in Suriname, so black people, and my brown friends from Indonesia, that if they go, of course, they didn't get a sunburn, but you could see it on the skin when they had a day in the beach.
Yeah. When you're talking about that, the sunscreen side of things, but I've interviewed, she was one of my first guests, Jules Bright. She's here in New Zealand, and she's now won close to 30 awards for sunscreen because it is environmentally friendly, because she has a love of the ocean, and her thing is whatever you're going to put on your body has to not impact the body, and then that body is going to go into the ocean, and so she doesn't want it to affect the coral reefs is her really big thing. She's an ex-nurse, and so she spent 25 years she's been developing this and now got amazing awards for it. But as you say, it's an adjustment and not going out in the midday sun. I'm the same. In England, I would bubble up because I'd spend all day, oh, there's a ray of sunshine and you get outside. But over here in New Zealand, it's different. And I can't remember which country it is, but they take the patients out to the roof so they can get sunshine.
Yeah, there are so many things different, right? In the past, if you go in a hospital or a doctor, then they would say, okay, rest, don't do nothing.
Yes.
Now these days you get an open heart operation and the next day they have you on a treadmill beside your bed so that you already start walking.
Yes.
That is also, people underestimate the power of walking. When I was starting here, it came natural. I was a living billboard, right? I was at that time still 88 kilo with about 9% fat. So when I was just working out, people just came asking me. And I mean, in the Netherlands, I did help some people as a coach, but that were people preparing for the contest. I was very motivational. So if you need to work like a horse in the gym, but you eat like a chicken, it gets hard, right? Because the bodybuilders, they need to lose fat and less as possible. So yeah, they were normally eating, let's say 3,000, 4,000, 5,000 calories. And then they go for the contest and they ending up on, let's say 1,500 calories. So they were constantly feeling hungry and started getting tired and they need to actually train harder. So that was my job. But in Thailand and in Laos now these days, people just came to me because I was a living billboard. And then I tell them many times stuff like that. But also in my work, I always talk about de-stress yourself. There's too much stress. And oh yeah, now I know where I want to go. So talking about the sun, and now these days that people talk into fear about the sun, stay out of the sun. But so many people have certain health conditions because they lack enough sunshine, right?
Yeah.
And now these days, if in Europe they talk about, oh, heat wave. In my days, it was just a good summer,
Yes.
same temperature.
Yeah.
And if they say climate change, I don't deny that climate is changing, but not by humans. And there was a time in Earth history that the temperature was way higher than it is now. For me, it is not to point proofs who is right or wrong. For me, it is a proof that people are constant bring into fear, in
Yes.
stress. And
Yeah.
stress make you have effect on your health.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
that's why in my coaching style, beside that, I help people to do more fitness activity. And of course, now online. So I'm not standing and holding hands in the gym, but I would say 2-3 times per week. Strength workout can be at home, calisthenic body workouts, they can be hard too. It can be in the gym, or you can buy a kettlebell, and you have now these days the adjustable kettlebells and adjustable dumbbells. Do some workout, and for sure people from our age, they will feel how much more energy they get. And then also your food, when you start to eat the right amount of protein gives energy and it builds your system. It is a building block for our human body. And then you also start to feel. And then the most important part, work on your sleep. I remember from my grandmother, she would fall in sleep sitting in her chair watching the TV. And okay, then finally stand up and would go to bed. And then me as a young kid, happy from we could finally put something on, see on the TV that we were interested in because grandma was falling asleep. But now these days, then I say, yeah, don't do that. Don't fall asleep in front of a screen, headset from your phone, from your computer or TV. I have an hour downtime. So again, I do a Qigong movement, a Qigong flow, take about 10 minutes. I do my meditation to set myself for the night and right away set up for the next day. So you get more aware and take care of your hygiene. But most important, 1 hour, I'm not on a screen. The last hour before I fall asleep, I will say that can be in bed already. Sometimes I do like an hypnotic meditation. So I just listen to it. Your brain will still take it in your subconscious mind, even though you do so way that you think that you don't hear it anymore, but your brain is still active. Yes. Right? And I feel great, and it changed your whole being. I give you an example from my personal experience. Traffic here can be stressful.
Right.
Because many things in Asia, they have the nice law and all the rules and regulations, but they are not so implemented as in the Western world.
Right.
And then the other part, people have a driver's license, but they never did any lessons. Money is king. You go to the driver's license school, give the right amount of money, and you get your driver's license. And then they copy paste. So everybody that don't know shit, they drive, then they like sheeps. Okay, he do it like that. Okay, then I'd also do it like that, right? So here you can make a right turn, and then someone cut off the left turn, so it's in your driveway and stuff like that. So in the past, I would be the first 10 minutes or 15 minutes when I would arrive in the gym, cursing about all the shit that I experienced on my way from home to the gym. And then I changed my mindset. So I set myself up that I would have a nice day and everything would go smooth. Now I have a green wave. Even traffic lights, when I come close, they jump on green. I think that is part of bending reality.
Yeah.
Or Bruce Lipton, I love it with epigenetics.
Yes, I was just going to say that because he's bringing out a new book, Beyond Darwin, at the beginning of August.
Yeah, I know. And the fun part, when I first came to him, and actually I came to him after I was following already Greg Braden. They are friends, and many times they show up on the same events and do the talk.
And Joe Spencer.
Yeah, and Joe Dispenza. So then you see the power of the brain. And if people say that is not true, well, I live it. For me, I always give an example from when I was in my 20s and my average squat weight was somewhere around 250 kilo. And my regular partner that was giving me the power, because I set that in my brain, right? It was my identity that he would be with me in the gym and I could lift a truck if he say that I need to lift a truck, right? He was almost 2 meter, a Dutch guy, and 130 kilo, not that low fat as me, but for me, if I would see him, this big shadow of a spotter with his big hands. So he had to go to the clinic and he said, I may be a little bit later, so you just start. So another guy that was sometimes also spotted me with actually warming up sets. And 130 kilo, I go down and I could not get up. So in a normal situation, whatever happened, then they could lift you a little bit. And no, it didn't work. I was totally down. I lost everything. And so then I use some strength words. So then I hear from the back when they lift the barbell from my back with 3 people. And I hear, what the fuck is going on? And I look and my training partner stand there. He say, wait for me, coming in a minute. So I'm waiting there, and he put 100, so he do his sets warming up. He said, okay, your mind okay now? And then he put 180 kilo on the bar. And I want to put some straps around my knee, and he say, fuck off, get under the bar. And I did it 8 times. And that day I did 230 kilo. And people say, how is this possible? You did 100 kilo less and you could not get up. Mindset.
What were you going to say about epigenetics?
Well, epigenetics is also about from above, right? Bruce Lipton say with epigenetics that from your mind create your disease, right? To turn your genes on or off, it are all light switches. And we have so many, when they talk in DNA, always that they say, oh, junk DNA. No, there's not junk. It's just DNA that is in the parking lot, unused, yes, waiting till when you need to use it. Yeah. And I think now with all this AI and quantum computing, we will make jump starts to finally understand how the human body works. And also about healing. People, they always say from like the winter time, when the flu time, let's say like that. Yeah. And then I say, no, it is not because of the cold weather or whatever. It is because your lifestyle changed. Exactly. It gets colder, you go less outside, less sun, you eat different, and all kind of things change that make your biology, your metabolic health less strong.
That links to your ancestral wisdom as well, because for me, it's the big thing about connecting to nature and being aware of the cycles of nature, you know, moving into wintertime and things change. There's less light. And that's one of the reasons I moved to New Zealand. The SAD syndrome, seasonal affect disorder, people are really impacted by the amount of light because the photons are the very thing that energize the cells in our body, because that's what we are, balls of energy, isn't it?
Yeah. So, and then also now you give them again a label. And I think people, we're giving too much label because then you identify yourself with that. I hear someone say on a post, stress disorder, bipolar, HND, and all these labels. They are not real. And for me, I always say, you're living by the stories that you tell yourself, right? They love it now from, oh, how was your childhood? Fuck, my childhood is years ago, right? The first 6, 7 years have no effect how I live now.
No, I'd argue the toss there, because a lot of it is subconscious patterning that you have taken on that you're not aware of. But to take your stance is really, the more aware we are of the body's response to things, the response to a thought that comes in, the response to a sound, the response to the way your body moves, it can create a greater awareness. And so that shit comes to the surface. Again, it's the epigenetics, our environment. Yes, our nature is one thing, but our environment really impacts how we thrive. Just like nature, put a plant that needs sunshine in the shade and you're stuck. So we need to balance everything, which is where I think the ancestral wisdom comes in. And how do you integrate that aspect into your work?
Well, it's funny that you say you're getting more aware of it. So then it is what I say, you give more awareness to the story that you tell yourself. So my younger brother, he talked with a therapist and he had something, and then he asked me about how did I experience our childhood. So the therapist would probably put him with certain wording, and then he started to make the story up where he recognized that it was happening in his youth. So he asked me, without that I know that he was going to a therapist, he just had some questions and I talk and this and that. He said, yeah, that was also what I thought so. And then it right away connected with me. So the connection is there. I said, are you going to a therapist? I said, be aware that a therapist infuse you with his identity, how he look at things. And then he bring it to you, and then you think, oh yeah, I recognize that. But recognizing it or having the importance of the weight of it, right? I recognize certain things from my use with other people, but they see a negative aspect and I see it just as a learning, right? So I was in my army time in the Netherlands, we have to go for our number. So it was not free choice. At that time, you had to, by 18, I was still from a generation, then we had to go to the army. But, well, being adventurous as I am, the blue helmets were in the south of Lebanon. And I was, well, I can have more money, more sunshine, see something from the world, and have some adventure. Or I sit with a NATO exercise in Germany in the forest with snow and maybe cold rain and stuff like that. Let's go to Lebanon. So I was 6 months in Lebanon, and some people, they did fall apart in the training in Netherlands. They were the tough guys, even talking about, after this, I want to go to the Legion from France, right? And they fall apart. So for me now, when I look back, and of course I see that things, but the bad things are on a back burner somewhere down in my closet. I just try to remember the fun parts, you know? So that's why I say the story that you tell yourself, make how you respond to it. So if you are more aware on the negative little things in your life and forget that there is a balance, the Hermetic principles, right? As above and below. And that is every part. But sometimes the balance is always there, except when your brain is fucking up how you give attention to it. And then you give more attention to one part compared to the other part. And then you only see imbalance because you make one part more heavy. Because if you say balance, then I say, I can put on a balance on one side 20 kilo and on the other side 80 kilo. I just need to move the needle where it keep in balance, right? Then you put it more to the left or to the right so that it is still in balance. But then still, one is bigger than the other one. So get balance in your lifestyle. It doesn't mean that it is 50-50.
No, it's a bit like a game of tennis or a partnership. Sometimes you need to give more and other times you come up, and the body is constantly calibrating itself to take that into account. And what you were saying about the awareness is, because my background is psychology, and I remember when I just got my degree as an undergraduate, I'd just come to New Zealand, and they said, Nobody would look at me when I was going into the Child, Youth and Family Agency because I didn't have a postgraduate. And I thought, I've done 6 years of training, my brain cells are going to explode. So I'd rather do the practical, grounded stuff. But psychology is really good at putting people in boxes and attaching labels to. And I think this is the key of your work, is looking at lifestyle. It is the sovereignty. It's saying to people, you cannot point the finger at anybody else.
No.
Scan your environment inside, around, make adjustments, be aware of the changes. Sometimes you'll do something and it's not going to work for you. So adjust again. Nothing's right, nothing's wrong. I mean, there's obvious dangers and things like that. But it is having that sovereignty and taking the responsibility for ourselves, for our own health. That is key, isn't it?
That's what I love in my coaching, that I say, I'm not right, I'm not wrong. Don't try to do like me, right? I'm from a generation that I say, I like to slap you with a boxing glove, not with a silk glove, right? Because I need to make you feel a little bit uncomfortable with things that I said. And on that moment, then maybe with the next session when we talk again, because I do coaching and mentorship, and so there's a slightly different approach. It is then like from the next session, they come back because then they sit with it.
Yes.
Right? And then they go from, okay, he said that, but my life is like this. Okay, he do like that. But then they find something what they could implement on that moment. Because I tell people always, how I live now is not how I did live 30 years ago. In my 30s, I was in the hardcore party scene, recreational drugs, too much alcohol, and not enough sleep, or at least not enough sleep in one sitting, right? I didn't have an 8-hour night. I had maybe 4 hours, go to work. I had a little nap in my lunch break. And then before I go to the gym, I had a little nap. Then I go to the gym. After the gym, a little nap. And then I was going party again. That was working for me at that time, because also the condition I was having the balance. On one side, I was ruining my body with too much shit going on. And on the other hand, I was still keeping the balance with the right food and doing all the right things that would help you. And then I grow to what I do now. And if they say oh, but your morning routine in 1 hour, I said, well, it sneak in slowly. In my younger years, I was for sure not a morning person. I need my time to wake up. So I learned anyway already in my working life that I wake up on time. So not on the last moment. I was really taking the time so that I would be awake by the time I arrive on my work. So I didn't have rituals. I just needing a slow start of the day.
I think now people are trying to squidge too much into something. The other day, I think I wrote it on one of the posts, that in one day, what people used 500 years ago, people used to take on in a lifetime. And it's no wonder we're fried, basically.
Yes, I don't think we have to go 500 years. If I just look to my grandparents, right?
Yes.
Their life was 100, 150 years ago. It was so different.
Yeah.
And that is true. And that is also when people want to change. Then I say, when you want to learn to swim, you don't right away jump from a bridge in a river and see how it goes, because you know which swim stroke you should do. Yeah. However, an ex-girlfriend that could not swim, and I had a swimming background because Netherlands 2/3 is underwater. So my time, elementary school, swimming was part of your education. So we walk by the pool and I give her a push and she fall in this water that she could not stand. And I, of course, I right away jump beside her and then I said, let the water push you, relax. And because she trusts me that I was there, and she stopped to panic. And then she felt that the water lifted her up, right? But the thing is that many people want to do too much in the same day, also if they want to change. And that's why I say, I cannot really help you in 1 month or in 2 months, because you didn't came to this lifestyle in the last couple months. And also weight related, right? Most people, if they want to lose in 15, 20 or 25 kilo, I said, the 25 kilo, be honest to yourself, how many years it was, right? First year, a couple kilo that you gain, and then beside the belt, a couple holes loose. Then it was a new pants because the other one was a little bit too tight. And then the next year, and the next year. So most likely it was over a decade on average. Of course, you have some extreme that by a stress situation, they start eating and then it came much faster. But in general, it takes time. I said, so give yourself time.
That's one of the keys nowadays. We're trying to compress everything. People are wanting hacks to get everything yesterday. You know, we're used to instant food, but there are no hacks. And just like you, it's what I say with my mentoring. You've lived 50 years. Don't expect me to be able to help you change it. And don't put it upon yourself to make the changes that you want. It's not going to happen overnight. And you have to put some effort in, but just acknowledge that slow progress and sustain it. That's the important thing.
They must lose the resistance, right? I remember when I was in Netherlands with my company, and my business partner was also one of my best friends and my party buddy. So, but he had much more experience in doing business beside his job. So he always had different business beside his work. His uncle was his mentor, and that was a multimillionaire, there several successful business. He started also to be a little bit my mentor, but my friend was really my business mentor. And then sometimes we would have a hard talk, well, more or less from him. And then he saw, of course, my blood boiling. And in the street where we had the office, there was also on the corner of the street a Spanish tapas bar that we mostly on Friday take the staff and they could then on our expense eat and drink something, and building the right atmosphere from the workers, and they get a good team. So after the hard talk, and I was really ready to pull him over the desk, and then he looked at me and he said, okay, so seeing how you are boiling, I think what I said is landing. Let it boil, let it settle, and when you're ready, I see you later. I go have a wine and eat some tapas. He said, but come when you are ready. Yeah, don't come too early.
In relationships with yourself and with other people, we want everything instantly rectified. So if you've got a difference of opinion with someone, everybody's needs are different. Just like your friend did to you, it's like, I can see you're reacting to this, and I can see that you actually need time out to deflate and to distress and to contemplate it. Be aware of the response you've had in order to...
In my 6-phase meditation that I learned also from Mind Valley, one part is forgiveness. Now I say it to my clients, what was the reason that the person hurt you? Go in his or her shoes and try to see how they were looking at you on the moment that you feel hurt, upset, disappointed, or whatever. Try to see from their view. And that is the hardest part. People always are so righteous that they only want to see it by their view.
We started the conversation about different cultures and how we have to adjust things. Everybody is completely different. Again, to the philosophy of what you were saying earlier about there's no right or wrong, because you would probably have done what that person just did to you had you had their life. And so that is why it's so important to walk in someone else's shoes. And also, when you see the behavior, it's triggered something in you. So it's a reflection of something that you need to tend to for yourself as well.
Yes. So I don't believe in the term absolute wrong or absolute right. It was funny when I came here in Laos and I was sitting with some young 30-year-old into business. And then I was giving some wisdom from my past. And they said, oh, yeah, that's how we should do it. And I said, no. I said, because it will not work. Oh, but you just say, and it was working good for you. I said, yeah, in Netherlands.
Yes.
The whole society, the whole mentality from the people is different compared to here. I said, you must get out of the story what you think will work here. Don't copy paste it. Take out of it what will work here. Take it as a lesson and then see from, oh, okay, well, not in the way that he said it, but we can do this and this, and most likely that work.
It is a matter of stepping back and being awareness and seeing the nuggets of wisdom and recognizing that you can make a sovereign choice as to what will serve you and what your needs are. Have you had a book and or a person that has influenced you in your life that you got bits of wisdom from?
Yes. It is funny that of course, I had my book in the past from Arnold Schwarzenegger in my teenage years about training principles and stuff like that. But in his later years, he wrote the book Be Useful.
Oh, okay. I didn't know that.
He talked about everything in his life then came to him because he was also useful to the others. His governor years, that he tried to be useful for different communities. He have his after school project already for many, many years that he helped kids in America to do something and stuff like that. He also every year with Thanksgiving that he go by homeless and do a turkey dinner that he delivered there with his team, and he's there cutting and serving. So now these days, depending a little bit on the time, I help many times people gym related, for example, give them advice how and what to improve themselves. But I was also here in multi-level marketing, and I also like to, when they say, oh, can you do that? And then some presentation. I didn't get anything out of it, right? They didn't start buying the product from me. And then it was nice when there was a doctor from working in a hospital in Thailand and sitting there. And then after the presentation that he then came, oh, it was so useful for me, the way how you look at and how I can use that with my patients. So for me, when I talk or with my posting online, if it helped just one person that they improve themselves in whatever way, then it was useful. So I was giving something to people. These days I get more and more invites for podcasts, and I like this kind of talk without hardcore interrogation, that you get all these hardcore questions and then just answer the question. No, see where the conversation go, and then they see from, oh, I was expecting he would just talking about food or training principles, and then I said, no, it doesn't work like that. It needs to be a lifestyle. If you do a certain sport, it must integrate in your life, right?
You're in your 60s and you have accumulated years of wisdom. And I think the key is here that it's about opening people's minds and hearts to see things from a different perspective. And that is paramount. Have you got any words or quotes or anything that you really keep you going?
A day not left is a day not lived.
Wow. Do you know who wrote it?
My grandmother.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
Yeah. My grandmother in Germany, she would always say, ein Tag noch nicht gelachen ist ein Tag nicht gelebt.
Wow.
So a day when you didn't have a laugh is a day that you didn't have a
Oh,
life.
that's so beautiful.
And you can say that and talk to people that live with depression, right? They would love to have a little humor in their life that they could truly laugh about, and people take themselves and life too serious.
Absolutely. I love the laughter is the best medicine. And I love nothing more than listening to children because it is just so infectious. They giggle and giggle and giggle, don't they?
Now I forget her name, but she was a Dutch children book writer. And in her 70s, when she just did some book presentation, and then the talk show host was asking how you can still write children books on this age. I make sure that the child inside of me never die.
Wow. Yes.
And for me, people say many times, man, are you never serious? Yeah. On moments that I need to be. And the rest of the day, I like to fun talk and joke and enjoy life.
So on the flip side of things, what do you do? Because I'm sure you have your moments because you're human like the rest of us. What do you do when you get in a funk?
Go to the gym.
Yeah.
Sport in general, right? For me, it is gym. I can feel a little bit down in the morning, and after my gym work, I feel better. And I had in my life like a breakup from a relation. And the things that pulled me through was that I forced myself to go to the gym. And usually after the workout, even the workout by itself was shit. But because I was in this environment that normally would give me pleasure, afterwards I would feel better.
But you're very present, aren't you? I think that's one of the key things. In that moment, You have to be present with yourself and your body to do it. You can't mindlessly do it.
No, it's part, like I told you, from in my younger years, I was into martial art. And so I started as a 6, 7-year-old with judo, and I did the karate and Wing Chun and you name it. So many things that I was influenced because also in the 70s, Bruce Lee and all these karate movies were very popular. And I did like this Asian philosophy. So I was always in a certain way busy with it, but I didn't make it my life because of labeling. At that time, I didn't want to be labeled. My friend circle was different, so I didn't want to be seen like that. So only very close friends, they know how philosophical I could be and how deep I could go. But in general, I was just the one that you go to have fun, have a good time, always optimistic. One of my best friends, he would say when he came visit me here in Laos and met with my wife, he said, Tommy, he is so optimistic that even be standing in a sewing tank until here in the shit, he would still already point to something. Oh, let's go there. Look, they have nice coffee, right? And then he was from, well, let's first get out of the shit before we can go drink a coffee. He said, but he would never see the problem that he was standing in. He was always already 2 steps ahead and looking forward for that. And I think if you can develop that mentality, and I like to always talk with people that are totally out of my zone, what my daily interest is in. So
Yes.
when I talk here with a Buddhist monk, when they came for the blessing of the house, because my wife Buddhist, he spoke fluent English, and we walked to the garden and we talk a little bit, and then he say, you are on so much higher level related to Buddhists than the average Lao person because of your life that you live already and how you look at things. And then I was from, oh, I never saw it like that. Right? I never saw it like that.
What if I was your fairy godmother and I could grant you one wish in the world, what would it be and why?
Getting all the toxic ingredient out of food so that everybody will improve, because the body, the biological vessel will improve, so the life will improve.
Wow, yes. So at the end of it, what is the one thing that you would suggest to people to help improve their lifestyle?
Getting more present and aware on what you really want. And on the moment that you know what you want, then give more awareness on how you feed your body and your mind.
Yes. Brilliant. Fantastic. Well, we could probably talk to 3 million hours, and it's been thoroughly enjoyable. We've gone round and round and round in circles, but again, you know, when we've got all those decades of wisdom, it's like everything's interconnected, isn't it?
Yes, we talk around, but it always comes back to the core, right?
Yes, it always does indeed. Thank you so much for your time today, Tommy. I've really, really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, me too. It was a pleasure to be your guest.
Great. Take care.
Okay,
Bye.
bye-bye.
Wasn't that insightful? And what I really loved about Tommy was that he gave a lot of examples from his own life and the lessons he's learned himself. So he really does walk the talk. And as he said, he models it. And that is what attracts people. Just like where he cited Arnold Schwarzenegger, he is useful. He likes being useful. And there's so much depth to his wisdom. It was really about awareness. Once you build that and shift your mindset, be discerning about the choices you make and ensure that they match what it is that you want to choose. And whatever you choose, there is no shortcut to it. You have to put the effort in and don't expect it yesterday. And I can tell you, I'm the most impatient person going, but that step-by-step thing, I've learned so much. Walking the Camino, building my house, and now I've just finished a project for my Pips Poo Oracle cards. And that took me 15 months, and it was so exciting when I received the cards the other day. I would invite you to go to my website, philippaross.com, and click on the Oracle cards, sign up for the Penguin Post, and that will take you to my Kickstarter campaign where you press notify me, and I'm launching that on the 28th of August. I think doing the Kickstarter page was harder than actually putting the project together. But anyway, I'm a technical wizard now. Tommy's contact details are in the show notes at the bottom for you, along with the quotes and the books that he cited. Make sure that you like or subscribe to the podcast so you don't miss out on future episodes. And all feedback and reviews are much appreciated, as are any ideas you have for subjects or guests. Like Tommy, just write me an email and let me know all about yourself, because I love to give people a chance to share their story where we can all learn from. So until next month, being August, dig deep, open your mind to a world of possibilities, life with a generous heart, and take steps to minimize waste and maximize your potential.